we dissect the week's madness and find a way to laugh through the chaos. So if you made it through the dark, no-lit roads of Lagos this week without contemplating Jackpot to the UK, which I hear is not that easy anymore, well, congratulations to you. So now, let's dive into the fun craziness of the week that has been. First off, did anyone wake up and think, you know what Nigeria really needs? An educational system that really works. No? Nobody? Well, it seems someone in government actually flirted with the idea, because midweek, news broke out that our junior secondary and senior secondary school system might be scrapped in favor of a 12-4 model, is what they call it. Now, honestly, last we checked, education in Nigeria was as solid as a 2-day-old fufu, so why complicate things further? Well, thankfully, the government came out and quickly said, oh, sorry, oops, our bad, it was just a proposal. Apparently, since it's just a proposal, maybe not something to look at, but it reminds us of the Trump-owned the Gaza Strip real estate dreams. That's exactly what it was like. A thought so wild it was dead on arrival. I mean, 12-4 versus 6-3-3-4, nah, same thing if you ask me. But speaking of brilliant ideas, who's got some more? How about this? Let's create 31 new states in Nigeria. Yes, because managing 36 states and the FCT has been a very easy walk in the park, hasn't it? No, but seriously, where do we even plan to carve out the space for these new states? Well, suggestions could be that we could just go empire mode and annex Benin Republic. Might as well just start a full-scale war and expand our territory. But the real question really is, shouldn't we first fix the disasters already happening in our existing states before adding more states to the mix? I mean, I'm giving a side eye here to Rivers State because the political drama unfolding there between Governor Sim and Wike-led faction has turned into a Shakespearean tragedy complete with betrayals, defections, and a script even Nollywood couldn't even rival, if you ask me. And since we're on the topic of disasters, have you driven in Lagos lately? Because Lagosians, the truth is, we're all mad drivers, dare I say. And even if you think you're a law-abiding citizen, I guarantee you've committed at least 13 traffic offenses this week alone. And guess what? Well, the government has had enough, and they're rolling out speed cameras and imposing 50,000 naira fines on offenders. So if you're the type that thinks the Third Mainland Bridge is a Formula One circuit, you might want to slow down unless you're ready to turn your Love February Valentine's reserve money into government revenue. But you see, the irony is this. The very same people who are rolling out these policies will be the first people to switch on their sirens and zoom past the cameras like ghost riders. Them and me. Yeah. But now, let's move on to a royal mess, if there's any such thing. A suspended monarch in Ogun State was recently arrested for assault. Yes, an actual king. I mean, it raises the question, is monarchy officially dead in Nigeria? Have we finally accepted that government authorities now trump traditional rulers, or was this just a one-off incident? Well, either way, it's an interesting shift, and we'll be watching closely to see how this affects future power struggles between the state and the throne. State and the throne, I just thought about that one actually, that's very nice. So, let's not forget the drama in Kano, by the way, where Emir Sanusi and his rival Adebayo were engaged in a Game of Thrones-worthy battle over the emirship. It was like musical chairs. One day Sanusi is reinstated, the next Bayero is making a surprise comeback. It's like a Nollywood movie where nobody knows who the real king is until the final scene. If you guys have ever seen anything like that. And oh, have you heard? This is a funny one. The Lagos lawmakers have written an apology letter to President Tinubu for impeaching their former speaker, Mudashiru Obasa. I mean, really? They kicked the guy out, and then they got cold feet and decided to pen a sorry daddy note to the president. It's almost as if they realized they might have stirred up a political tsunami or a hornet's nest and wanted to preempt any wrath from above. The apology letter I hear reads like a secondary school student's plea to a strict principal. It's like, "Dear Daddy, we didn't mean to do it. Please don't be mad." But you know what? I know someone who's got more guts. She's not here in Nigeria, and even if she is, Kemi Badenoch, or is it Badenoch? Well, one of those. The Nigerian British politician is out there making immigrants' lives harder, proposing a 15-year wait for immigrants before they can settle in the UK and be called citizens. Apparently, she fears no one. I mean, No reconsideration. She's just straight up just so. I mean, she can wait a decade and a half, or you can just simply go home. So Nigerians looking to jackpot might need a plan B, plan C, plan D, whatever you need. Which brings me to my lovely co-host this morning, Judith Atibi. Judith, good morning. Great to have you here. I need you to be very honest. Did you have plans of relocating, and are they still alive after Kemi's proposal?
Well, I've never had any plans to relocate, to be honest.
Okay.
I've never been one to think of living somewhere else. And maybe because I've been plagued with the knowledge of black and brown people, people of color who have lived in climes like this and countries like this. And so I pretty much understand their genesis, and I would rather not have my descendants. It's bad enough I live in Nigeria. Last thing I need is my generations after me to add more trauma to the trauma they already experienced from living in Lagos.
Hey, tell you what, when I come back, they will have this conversation. In any case, welcome to Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Appeal, and let's get the show on the road. Good morning and welcome once again to Breakfast Extra. We're just going to get right in the thick of things here with our very first big report, of course. Well, so for our big report this morning, in a sudden and alarming turn of events, residents of Bello Kasumi Lane and also Onakoya communities in Ketu, Lagos State witnessed the unexpected demolition of their homes on Monday and Tuesday. Bulldozers accompanied by heavy armed policemen and suspected land grabbers descended upon these neighborhoods, reducing structures to rubble without prior notice. Now, the demolitions were reportedly orchestrated by the Onikosi of Ikosi, Alamu Onikosi, who allegedly acted upon a court order from an Ikeja court. Terrified tenants and landlords recounted their experience, expressing shock and disbelief at the sudden loss of their homes. Many claimed that they were unaware of any legal proceedings leading to the demolitions and questioned the legitimacy of the actions taken by them. Now, the court order dated November 8, 2023 granted the claimants permission to remove structures deemed unlawfully erected on the specified lands. However, affected residents insisted they received no prior notification or opportunity to consent to the decision. So we're going to take a look at a report filed in by News Central correspondent Bernard Akede from during the week.
It was an unusual and tense morning here on Bello Street, Ketu. News Central arrived after receiving distress calls from residents who claim their houses were about to be demolished without warning. Several buildings had been marked for demolition, but according to the residents, no proper notice was given.
My landlord didn't say anything about demolition or receiving anything when I rented out this place. And even till now, there's still no papers that has been shown to me. Then I asked around from the bailiffs that I saw, like, what exactly is going on? They said they have an order to demolish this whole line for the street. They wrote like almost this on every house on this side of the street. And before our agents got here, we already lost a bit of security, which is our fence that covers the security of the house, the store. I'm very confused. I'm tired. I've cried because I'm really not sure what's going on.
While inspecting the area, it became clear that some buildings had been marked for demolition, but the markings appeared selective, raising questions about why certain properties were targeted while others remained untouched.
At this point, selected houses like this were marked with this identification. Some has gotten their fence down, all because of these documents. This is not a new house. This belongs to my father. The land, I built the house on it, renovated. How come the Oba Lukosi will just decide to come out of the blue moon and say they are taking possession? Waking up overnight to now say you want to take possession. Look at the house beside. The house is not included. The next house is not included. This house is not included. Why is it that selected house is being included?
Many affected residents, some whom had lived in the area for decades, are now calling on the Lagos State government to intervene before they lose their homes entirely.
Mo ti wà mí báyìí láti 88 ọkọ mi ti kú tí mo ti ń forí fa gbogbo wàhálà ẹ̀ tí mo wà nínú omi nínú ìdààmú pákó ni máa tò sílẹ̀ fi roko ń bí báyìí tọ́lọ́run fi ń bá mi tún bí báyìí ṣe tó di láàárọ̀ ìṣàlẹ̀ nìkan wá ń gbálẹ̀kùn gbàgbàgbàgbàgbà ìgbà tán ní wọ́n fẹ́ túnlẹ̀ yìí ta o kíjọba dìde kó ràn mí lọ́wọ́ o torí mi ìlẹ́nì kankan àfọlọ́hún.
However, a man who claimed to be the son of the Onikosi, the traditional ruler of the area, spoke off camera. He alleged that landlords had been notified about the demolition plans and invited for discussions, but failed to attend. The situation remains unclear, with conflicting accounts from residents and local authorities. News Central will continue to seek responses from government officials to understand why these demolitions are taking place and whether due process was followed. In Lagos for News Central, I'm Bernard Akede.
Many thanks to Bernard Akede, their correspondent who followed the story. Unfortunately, he's unable to join us now to give more in-depth insight on covering this story extensively. But we have two aggrieved residents joining us here. We have with us Mr. Abimbola Balogun, who is a resident, and also you can see him in the reports that just played. And we also have with us Mrs. Oladoja Esther, Mrs. Esther Oladoja, who's also a resident of the Kosi Ketu, and their houses as well have now been affected and marked for demolition. Thank you so much for joining us, and very good morning to you. And I must also inform our viewers that we were supposed to have the Alamu in Onikosi to join us, but unfortunately he turned down the invitation, as well as his son, that's Tosi Onikosi, who was supposed to join us as well, but unfortunately turned down. Now, they did tell us that they passed an invitation to residents to come in and have a conversation with them regarding the demolition notice, but unfortunately they did not come for the meeting, and they also didn't come in to have this interview. Now, with that being said, we have set the stage. I must say this is pretty much unprecedented to have your feeling waking up a new year and having bulldozers in front of your doors and wanting to pull it down must be heart-wrenching, and my heart goes out to both of you. But I have to ask, and let me start with you, ma'am. The Onikosi and the Onikosis have said that they passed on an invitation for a meeting to the community to come and sit down. And you also said earlier on during our reporting that this is the second time you're seeing this happening, leaving there. Did they give any invitation? Did you have any notice?
No
nothing at all?
Nothing. In fact, he told me that he regretted doing for other people to come and demolish my house initially. He begged, and he said he will build one out of two because there were two buildings. So later he was telling me that no salary, nothing. The government did not give them salary. And I built it up again. So for the son to come this time and demolish the new one, because rain normally disturbs, or there is erosion that normally comes from the ground. So I have to build another one. He demolished it. He destroyed it entirely, nothing. In fact, they were annoyed with me that they were telling other people that it's not because of demolition they came to revenge, to retaliate what I did to their father. I didn't do anything to their father.
How long have you been living there?
That was about 4.5 years ago.
When did you move to the area?
When did you build?
I stayed in the house before he was
Sworn in
as a con, before he was sworn in.
Let me also ask you as well. Did you receive any invitation, any contract, any notice of
no
demolition?
No formal invitation was received by these people. So they claim they have a court order to do this demolition exercise. And we said, no problem, if you have a court order, kindly present it. The sheriff that came presented a judgment. So I was opportune to read through. And what I could see was that it was particular about one defendant, Olutunde Amole. And they also claimed that they have judgment court order on 20 acres on Bello Street. No other street was included in that judgment. How come you're not going to the street besides Bello Street, off Bello Street, Grace Close, maybe Lewa Street, Kusumi, and all the environs? What's going on? You said you have the court order. Can it paste it for us? Let us see. You said no, for our eyes only. There were about more than 50 policemen, heavily armed, on Monday. That's about the 3rd of February. Heavily armed policemen. Anybody that make that attempt to raise up a phone, they seize the phone immediately. They wanted us to get into violence with them. Then they can put out a reaction and say they are hoodlums attacking the government, the police, and they say we are avoiding the court order or something. So we are now trying to make calls to people that can even help us come and look at this document with them. Because they claim that they gave us a notice. The same archipelago you guys are trying to do at that day was that you are trying to just curve those documents. The bailiffs started going to people's house and started bringing out loads from their house. I was like, okay, you said there's a court order to demolish. Why bringing out their load from the house? Get your excavator to just put this thing down.
Mr. Bimbola, I want to go back to the very beginning.
Yes.
I know Ikosi quite well. I used to work not too far from there, so I know the area, and I know these houses have been there for decades. Yeah. So the question is, who were they purchased from initially? I mean, the property, the land.
The property was, I can't really give those information at this moment, but definitely not Olukosi.
Okay, so there seems to be some discrepancy between the purchase point and current.
This is where the problem comes in. When he became the Oba of Olukosi, the people that have the previous lands there that sold the property, you know, when the new buyer comes, the money led them, they will go and disturb the people and say, you need a ratification that the Oba has won this, the land, and obviously they pay some money. And they are giving a new document. So most of the few houses there have gotten new documents, so they're using the opportunity. And at the point I wanted to renovate my father's house there, I went to see the Oba. I told him that there's my father's land is
So it's even your father's property.
Yes.
So this is how far back it goes.
It is not me purchase a new property.
It's
there.
your father's property. It's been in the family.
And this, my father died 1997.
Oh, wow.
When I was still very young. And now my father has gotten this property for like over 40 years ago.
And all of a sudden?
And all of a sudden, he said you have demolition.
Mama, this is the same with your property as well?
I bought my own.
Okay, when did you buy your own? Do you remember?
1983.
1983?
Yes.
That is 41 years ago.
That was before they
marked out a road for development.
And it was purchased?
I've been there before.
So
they now say we should pay another money to Taiwo.
Who's Taiwo?
That was the king before this one.
The Onikosi then?
Yes, the Onikosi then. And I did. So this one was a...
What was the money that you were supposed to pay to the...
They say we have to repeat the money. That those ones, they are not part of their family. But this one now, instead of asking questions, he destroyed my house, the two buildings, he destroyed it, and later he was begging.
The current Onikosis, did they come to meet you to ask you to pay any money?
No, they didn't ask me for money. But they have destroyed my properties I was having many things, because that time I was traveling. Many things they destroy is even more than the land.
So, Mama, regarding this land now, they said that they have called residents to come
They don't have
for
problem with my own.
Okay.
But there are some people among them, like the son. The son said, I
offended
their father.
But Ma, they said they've called residents. Mr. Bimbola, if you can, they said they've called residents and that the residents did not come. How true is this?
This is what happened. There was about 3 years ago, they pasted a kind of notification from town planning, and they put a phone number there for us to come and defend whatever it is. So so we selected few members in the community, and we visited the Lausa to make verification on this. We did not call the number on that document. We decided to go to the sector directly to go and make inquiry of where this document came from. So they told us they don't know anything about this. So that was what formed the CDA in that area. All affected areas came together and now formed Jagumolu CDA, so that we can come together as one and fight this cause. As at that point, there was nothing concrete. They said they didn't get any notification to that. That is obviously not true.
I have to ask you.
So some people, sorry, man, some people that called that phone number went to the same Alausa and they were told that they should go to Lukosi to get the documents. So we that didn't call the phone number didn't get that information. So it's like a staged thing. Why put a phone number if it is the government? Just give us the direction to that place. They will go there.
You said earlier on that there was a notice that you saw that it seemed that it was targeted to one person, and you called that the person's name. Can I ask who this person is?
I didn't call the person's name.
You said it seemed to be
yes.
To be targeted to this person.
Yes.
You actually did call the person's name. But who is this person?
I come again.
When you were responding to Mazzino during his question earlier,
Yes.
you said you had seen a notice, and it looked like the area that was targeted for demolition seemed to be...
There was no, they pasted in all areas, all the old houses that targeted for the demolition.
Right. And all the old houses that were targeted for demolition were selected areas. They were selected houses. Do you know why? And those houses, yours is one of them.
At first, it was not selected houses. It was all houses.
In that area.
In that area.
In that area.
So when there was a visitation to the Alausa's office, the department, environment, something, they told us that they are not aware of this. It's only those people that contact that number, like they wanted you to call that number.
As Lagos State, have you, when the demolition men, when they came in, were they clothed in...
No,
Nothing like that.
The people we saw was the two princes
The sons
and
of
one
the
other person
Oba.
belonging to the Oba Empire, I think maybe Balogun, something they called him. Those,
So they were not clothed in Lagos?
no, not
Nothing
other
like
uniform.
that.
The only people they were clothed were the policemen
Okay.
And
and the sheriffs.
And the sheriffs. Have you gone to Lagos State and filed the complaints that there's bulldozers outside and demolition men, and if this is from the Lagos
As
State?
at that point, we can't leave the spot.
Right.
As at that point, because they wanted to crash down everywhere.
What's the next step for the residents, for the Residents Association, those who are affected by this notice?
We started making phone calls. We called the local government chairman at Ikosi, but she was not available. Then we were able to get in contact with Honorable Femi Said, who was the life-saving grace for the Jagumolu CDA, the whole concerned residents. He came to our aid, he came to our help. If not for that day, what we'll be talking about today will be something else. Because that excavator, the tractor that came in, worked on that Monday. He was able to successfully demolish some few houses. Then it broke down. On Tuesday, they were trying to fix that excavator, and it got finished in the evening. While doing that, they resorted to a plan B, brought in carpenters, like 20 of them. They started going to a house that they were marked and be removing their roofs and using hammer to demolish the walls. Then on Wednesday, the excavator was meant to work that day again before the intervention of the Honorable to put them to stop. Immediately that happened, we got the help of the DPO in Ketu, who came to evacuate the policemen out of that area and that excavator. So as at this point, we are still hearing word of mouth that they say they are coming heavily again.
So what are you asking for now? Who are you directing this to?
We are directing this to the Lagos State government.
And
To
you're
help us
asking...
put a stop finally in this kind of situation.
I mean, because it's really concerning to know that your house has been targeted twice now. This is second time.
And they demolish everything.
In my own case, the Oba even gave, in 2015, the Oba gave me a complimentary card, and wrote behind with his signature that nobody should disturb me on this property, stating my own plot of land. I was surprised to even see marked for demolished by the same Oba.
No, wait, the markings is what's surprising. Who marked them? Was it the Ognikosi people or was it Lagos State?
The thugs that they brought in that day. by the prince and the Oba that they said they won the judgment. We want the Lagos State to even help us verify these documents. Because what is on the document, what I read was that they had a judgment over one defendant. And they're claiming 20 acres on Bellow Street. Bellow Street itself is not even up to 20 acres. So where did they get the judgment for 20 acres on Bellow Street? And this Mrs. Ladoja's house is not even on Bellow Street.
Mr. Pemela, you've told exactly who you'd like to come to aid. Madam Ladoja, I'm asking if there's any specific note you'd like to make, maybe to the Lagos State government, or asking for help.
If they can help us, it will be good.
Okay.
Because this is the second time. I don't know. In fact, I wasn't around. I wasn't around that day. When I came, I saw them about 100 coming
So
from
for
my
you,
side.
this is a call to the authorities.
And the notification was written after demolishing my house.
After.
Yes. After the demolished our old fence, they now wrote the inscription.
Mr. Bimbola, we have to close on this segment here now, but once again, please, loud and clear, to the authorities, you're expecting that they should come to the aid of residents of Ikosi, and especially to help verify these documents that the Ikosi has been.
Appreciation to the Honorable Femi Said.
All right, great. Well, I want to say thank you very much, and we do hope that this matter finds an end where you guys are perhaps compensated, or at least maybe, let's just say compensation for whatever damages have been done. We hope so.
That should be set in place already, because so many homes have been displaced.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm also worried about security as well. When you pull down people's walls and homes.
In fact, after the demolition, thieves came to my house,
Oh dear.
carried the 2 generators, vandalized the place.
The most concerning thing is even that the presence of the police, who are supposed to be the people to watch over lives and properties of the citizens, they are now the ones standing against its own citizens. They are just with the prince, the 2 princes. Nobody should even do anything with them. And we are telling the policemen, the leader, the team lead, the commanding officer there, that please, kindly just put these people to question.
Well, we will continue to follow the story and at least make sure that it continues to have the eyeballs and attention of the authorities. I want to say thank you very much, Mr. Bimbola. Thank you very much, Madam Ladoja, for coming on the show this morning. And do stay tuned, because we'll be definitely following the story like we've said. We've got more conversation here inside of Breakfast Extra. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome again. Now, in Nigeria, the traditional expectation is that families will care for their elderly members. However, economic pressures and the demands of modern life often lead to situations where aging parents themselves become primary caregivers to their grandchildren, or conversely face neglect. This dynamic places significant strain on the elderly, who may already be grappling with health challenges such as arthritis, hypertension, and even diabetes. Now, families frequently struggle to manage, these health issues due to the rising cost of medication and limited access to quality healthcare services. Now, with all these factors, yet the concept of old people's home is not widely embraced in Nigeria. Cultural norms emphasize familial responsibility for elder care, leading to a scarcity of formal care facilities. Existing homes are few and often lack adequate resources, resulting in limited access for those in need. Now, this situation raises questions about the societal perception of institutional elder care and the readiness to adopt such models in the face of changing family structures.
So for this very interesting conversation, we have with us joining Dr. Jumoke Odunsi. She's a senior citizens care expert, and also joining us via video chat is Mr. Tokumbo Odebumi, a veteran broadcast retiree. You're welcome, gentlemen and lady. Thank you very much for having having our time this morning to be with us.
Thank you for having me.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Judith.
I'd like to start with you, Dr. Odunsi. First off, I'd also like to tell that I have an elderly father of whom we're taking care of at the moment. My father has done so well.
He has like a good son. You're a good son. It's okay.
Can I have the moment, Judith? Just a second. We've cared for him so far, and it's been very tedious. So I understand absolutely what this what families are going through, what the elderly are also going through regarding caregiving in Nigeria, because it's very scarce. It's also very expensive. So it makes me personally wonder how many other families and whether there's a demand for this kind of care, or whether it's just because of the expense of it that makes people not bother going into elderly caregiving.
Well, thank you. And well done.
Thank you very much.
Really good job with that. The demand for care for older persons is actually huge. However, not many people are able to afford the cost of care. That's one. Secondly, some people don't even know that they have access to secondary caregivers, because traditionally we believe that families should take care of their own. But that comes a time when family might not be sufficient in terms of availability, in terms of knowledge and skills, and several other things. They might not be sufficient to take care of their aged ones directly. So that's where secondary caregivers come in. Some people don't even know that it exists, you know. And of course, not everybody is able to afford the cost.
And are there
of
cultural
care.
interferences in this process?
Absolutely.
Like, for instance, if you remember, Judith told about the fact that grandparents become nannies. That's mostly the fate of most grandparents. Or if you're not, then you're neglected.
Aging is a challenging situation. It's that cycle of life that is most challenging. And unfortunately, many people don't understand the challenges that older persons face, which is why several times we abuse them without us knowing that we're actually abusing them. So we have come to a situation where we have turned our parents, our grandparents, to caregivers
Themselves.
to care, when they themselves absolutely require care. You know, so it is important.
Mr. Adebumi, I must come to you and also ask about, you know, societal challenges that elderly face in our society, and just how these impact their quality of life. I mean, it's bad enough living with the high cost of living, with medical bills, and now, I mean, drugs are expensive. Times have changed at a rapid speed. How does this impact the life of the elderly?
All right. Well, the elder care in Africa is largely shaped by the economic situations and realities of today, and it's a question that has come to the fore many times, that has been discussed, you know, ever so often, that there needs to be a policy shift, there needs to be a re-education, and we need to have dedicated care system for the elderly. I think it's an area that, not personally, but it's something that has become a bit of interest to me as well. And something that I've commented a few times about. There needs to be a whole lot of things. There needs to be policy shift in terms of what we do to take care of the elderly within our society. And no doubt about it, there's been quite some level of abandonment for these senior citizens of our society. Quite a lot of other issues also can be attributed to this, but I'm sure that it's something that if we all have a concerted effort towards this, we can start shifting. Even we have some cultural issues as well. We have the issue of stigmatization. We have, you know, issues of re-education on what the elderly needs, and some infrastructural issues that we have as well. Our roads are not particularly friendly for the elderly, and these are some of the things that we need to take a closer look at.
Mr. Odebumi, now that we're talking about, you know, just stigmatization and also the challenges when it comes to inclusivity in our public spaces, whether it's a cinema, it's not even built for those who are handicapped. No, talk more of the elderly. And so it begs to ask the question of stigmatization. I've been asked to ask a question again. I'm asking about stigmatization. You just talked about stigmatization and basically, you know, how our culture in and of itself, and even how we build our public facilities are not accessible to the elderly. Talk more of those that are handicapped. And so one has to ask the question about stick with stigmatization now. And it takes us back to how we have cared for the elderly and the misconception or the conception that we have, or the perceivement that anyone who's of a certain age and is alone is either a witch or of witchcraft. We've seen that they are lynched for their old age. I don't know what religion plays in all of this. I don't know if it's a cultural belief
Culture,
or a
myth,
cultural
superstition,
system or norms that have affected that when they get to a certain age and, for example, they have dementia or something, they just immediately being tagged as witch or witches. Even a man is a witch. That's how they move.
Oh, okay. All right. So, sorry, there's been some interruptions in between your questions. I could hear a few other, stuff. So, if I hear you correctly, or if I can basically discern what you're talking about, yeah. I mean, look, growing up in the 70s in Lagos, and largely even to this point, quite a lot of senior citizens that we find on the streets. A lot of the times we're meant to believe that the practicing witchcraft or is some divine punishment on their past deeds, and we're not well educated. Even up till now, we're not well educated to the issues that the senior citizens have, which is anxiety of abandonment, anxiety of proper health care. And these things, the society is taking it, and largely, like we've discussed, the society is taking it upon, itself to rephrase the narrative that these people are suffering from either witchcraft or they're suffering from mental incurable mental issues, whereas all we need is just re-education and have a proper care for the elderly within our society. Many things can be attributed to this. Re-education is obviously very, very important, and our movies and the films and the movies on our channels are not helping in any case or form. Usually, any senior citizen or any of our aged, particularly women that you find, wandering around our streets, usually termed to be practicing witchcraft and all of that. So these are some cultural norms that we need to, abnorms, if I can put it like that we really need to correct and, educate people more on the needs and the care that the elderly need and they deserve.
Well, Mr. Odebomi, I want to thank you very much for implicating Nollywood there, because actually it is a tool that could disseminate plenty of information, and they're dropping the ball, apparently. But thank you for noting that. Let me come back to the studio here with Dr. Odunsi in the studio with us. Now, Doctor, let's take a look at society now and government or governance, and let's see what their responsibility is to the elderly. It would seem that there's not much, like Judith noted, when it comes to structural buildings or this or that, there's not much consideration being given to the elderly. When it comes to the health, we don't see much of that. I had to take my father to the bank one time in his condition, and there wasn't any consideration to having these, or maybe someone come over home to tend to him, so we had to take him there, and it was very tedious. So what do you think could be done, or what is being done currently that people may not know about when it comes to caregiving for the elderly in these instances and government's participation?
Okay, thank you very much. I was going to speak to two things that Mr. Odebomi mentioned. I mentioned the concepts that we call ageism, which is people's preconceived ideas about older persons. Meaning, when they're a certain age, they're either frail, they're either useless, they've become a burden, and there are 80-year-olds, 90-year-olds that are very, very strong, and they can still contribute a lot to the society. Several of them have a lot to give, but we are not giving them the opportunity to contribute. Several of them can still do things. I was talking about a certain client I had at the time. She was bedbound. Yeah, she was bedbound, meaning that she couldn't move. But right in that our room, she was making a lot of money. What was she doing? She was using her skills. She could make beads. She could make flower vases. She would make beautiful things. Some people would order from Canada, from America. So right in that our room, she was over 80, but she was still contributing to the society, to the economy. So we have several age people like that. So we should not look at old people as always problematic, because as an called it, their problem is too much. They're too problematic and all that. That's one. And then the concept of witches and wizards. Many times that comes from this from persons who have dementia. And several people have no idea what dementia is all about. Now, I run a class, and when I bring students to class, and I teach dementia, many times they're crying. Many times they're crying because they've never realized that their father, their grandfather, their grandmother, this was what they were battling with, and they never knew. And they tagged them all sorts. Some of them will tell you the way they treated them, because to them, the woman was lying, the man was being mean, was saying things that were not supposed to be, and to them, you're just being wicked. And that's dementia. That's why they're stoned. That's why they're called witches. That's why they're... However, if only we can educate people that there's a condition that's commoner in older persons. Not every older person will have it, but they're commoner in older people, and this is not them being wicked. This is a condition that they have to grapple with. And this is how we should care for those people in that category. It's absolutely very important. Now to your question. Thankfully, now there is a federal government parastatal that many people don't know about. It's relatively new. It's called the National Senior Citizen Center. And that, like I said, it's new. But then, what are they trying to do? They're trying to associate with older people. They're trying to bring older people together, and they have several things. In fact, some of the older persons are being economically, empowered to do things. I mean, the fact that you're retired, you're 60, you're 70, doesn't mean you're useless. Just get them something to do, something they would love to do. Some of them are retired professors, you're retired consultants in different fields. You could still mentor people. You mentor other people, younger ones, in your field at a cost. Normally, there will not be a cost attached to it. But now you're trying to say there should be a cost.
Just so they're able to also still make a living, even with their age. They've got so much brain power anyway.
Thank you.
So we might as well put that to use. But is the government making facilities available so that these people could take their parents, or so that people could take aged parents there and be taken care of? Elderly care homes in Nigeria is a thing. I've only seen once, and that was in one of our News Central reports. If you remember, during the Christmas holidays, we had a report there where we took a look at this elderly people's home. And it was very interesting to see that we had such a facility here in Lagos. The first one I've seen, by the way.
Yes, we do. Yes, we have elderly care facilities in Lagos. We have one for government, which I think is grossly inadequate.
So there's a government one then?
There's a government one.
So that's it?
There's a government one, but one facility for the whole of Lagos is not sufficient. But I'm also aware that they're working on other ones, at least in all senatorial districts, I think I know. But they're private. There are several private older persons care homes. The challenges will be that even when it is obvious that this person requires to be in a facility, we have families, in fact, many times I call it the Third World War in families, because many people feel that because you're suggesting that this person needs to be in the residential facility, you are dumping them, and you're not responsible children. However, that might be the best place for that person at that particular time.
So it's a reorientation thing for us.
Absolutely. The family, people need to know that there's several, in fact, there are people who come to the facility. I run a facility. The people who come to the facility and they tell their children, I'm not going back. They come for respite care, and they tell their children, I'm not going back. I'm okay here. I want to die here.
No.
You know, they come here and they say, oh, one was telling me yesterday, I'm going home, you know, and I said, bye-bye. He said, I'm going nowhere, you know, but the families need to support their decisions. Yeah.
Let me come to you, Mr. Odebumi, and ask about, you know, re-education and reorientation and, you know, the concerted efforts that have to be made. I've always said this, and I'll say it again, there's a national orientation agency that we have, and sometimes I think, I'm just going to be honest, I feel they've dropped the ball 9 times out of 10. There's not enough that is being done. But again, I'm just a journalist, I don't know anything. But let me ask you instead, sir, you are long in this, and you have seen the terrain. Is the National Orientation Agency doing enough? Should there be more concerted efforts? And should it be a PPP or a synergy between the private, public, and of course the media to continue to reorientate the minds of Nigerians? Mr. Odebumi.
Well, sorry, the sound quality is a bit fuzzy, but I can pick up a few words from what you said, and let me just, you know, imagine, you know, the question and, you know, respond to it. I did hear you talking about facilities for private facilities, care homes for the elderly. Yes, is this needed? Yes. We need more of it. We need more of what our doctors just talked about as well. Quite a few voluntary organizations are out there. Government needs to also be seen to be encouraging, you know, the private sector in, you know, in doing this and delivering this, because government, as we've realized, government can't do everything. But there are opportunities. In fact, if you ask me, there are business opportunities, you know, in you know, care homes, and I'm sure quite a whole lot of Nigerians are beginning to think in this direction of how to take care of their elderly, because if you really truly look at it, due to urbanization, modernization, and economic struggles, a whole lot of people have actually moved on, you know, and left their, you know, their elderlies in the rural areas. And even when we send money to them, don't forget that the first caregiver to them is probably unemployed as well. So you're not just sending money to your elderly, you're also taking care of the person that is taking care of them. Yeah. So, but when it comes, for instance, I went to a foundation, a sixth foundation, you know, they, a new organization in Lagos as working towards, you know, they do this voluntary services, you know, to take care of the elderly, and you could see the happiness, you know, this open day they had, where they had a whole lot of families, you know, came around and to the home. Some brought food, we brought music and all of that, and you could see the happiness on the faces of these senior citizens. So we need more of that. We definitely need more of that, and we hope that you know, the government creates an enabling environment for such investments, because I can tell you that there are business opportunities there too, because quite a lot of you know, Nigerians are believing in that, you know, we jettisoning that opinion, you know, that is a taboo to take your elderly to a care home. Mm-hmm. But if they're taken a place where they can see their peers, where they can relate, they can play games, there's music, there's food, that's all the elderly, that's what they need. Wow. They just need a bit of care, because they've been there as well, and they know what it means. And those little things that we consider, you know, or that we don't tend to consider, are quite important in the care of an elderly person.
Okay, then. Well, thank you, Mr. Odebumi. I'm coming back to Dr. Odunsi here. Now, I'm in this situation currently, and I'm talking from experience when I say that this period is also just, that's what it is. It's a period, and it will end. But most families do not know what to do in this period they're in when it comes to taking care of elderly ones, because eventually there's an eventuality that everybody's walking towards or moving towards, whether we like it or not. It's going to end. When that end comes, what I notice is that families do not know what to do. They do not know that within this period they're supposed to get documentation ready. And these documentation are very important, and it involves doctors' signatures and the kind of care that has been given to these, well, sometimes patients. What do people, families need to know when it comes to these documentations or these processes that happen at the end of life?
Thank you very much. What I realize is that many times, rather than families accepting the fact that they're nearing the end, their loved ones are nearing the end, they're in denial. And because they're in denial, they're not able to do the things that they're meant to do with their older ones. To accept, do an assessment, and accept the fact that it's going to end. When, you don't know. And start having those conversations. For whatever reasons, I don't know why our parents would wait till they're very old and then to have certain discussions with us.
I think you should tell those discussions. Let's be very open about it. Let's start with will writing.
Absolutely. Will writing, open discussions about what they have that comes in the will, what has happened, secrets.
Yes.
Secrets. Pains they've carried and they've shared with no one. Reconciliations they've got to make. They're very important. Some of those reconciliations are immediate family reconciliations. It might be even reconciling the children, because many times you leave that, you could obviously see siblings rivalry. Yeah. You should address it before you leave, And I am of opinion that people should even discuss their will before they go.
What I find very interesting in all of this is that it's parents that, or rather it's individuals or adults that have, polyamorous relationships, or they are in in polyamorous relationship, whether they're married to 2 wives or 3 wives, and they have an abundance of children. There's always this closed off thing to share the secrets, and sometimes they take it to the grave, and you now see the aftermath, which is tussles and years of them in courts. By far one of the largest cases that I have in courts is always inheritance cases and will contentions. And I find that happens oftentimes with people or individuals or adults who, especially men, who have been in polyamorous relationship. But also, there are also people who, towards the end of their lives as well, you can see that they are opening up more, they want to share more, they are calling you more, they want to get closer more. And in hindsight, when they're gone, you realize the reason why they were doing it was because they were coming to an end. I must say thank you, Doctor, for taking out the time to join us, Dr. Odusi, and also to Mr. Odebumi, who joined us live from Abuja to just give us insight. It's very clear that our elderly matters. So if you have misconceptions about them, stigmatization about them, or just preconceived notions about them, we hope that this conversation we've had has been able to clear the air and maybe have a different perspective and foresight on how you treat your elderly, and most importantly, those around us. It doesn't have to be your family, it doesn't have to be a loved one. It could be a neighbor, anyone. Be kind and be gentle. They've lived long lives and exhausting lives, especially living here in Nigeria. This is where we close the curtains. Thank you so much again to our guests. We're going to a short break. When we return, this time is education, as the Sapele residents in Delta State are calling for action on a neglected polytechnic. After the break, join us again.
Welcome back. Now to our next big report here. In 2007, the Delta State government initiated the construction of Sapele Polytechnic, aiming to enhance higher education opportunities in the region. However, by 2010, construction was abruptly halted, leaving the institution in an unfinished state. Now, the cessation of work has been attributed to various factors, including funding challenges and shifting governmental priorities. Over the past 15 years, the abandoned project has become a symbol of unfulfilled promises in the community. The prolonged neglect of the Polytechnic has elicited growing concerns among Sapele residents and surrounding communities. Local leaders and citizens have recently intensified their appeal to the Delta State government, urging the revival and also the completion of the institution. They argue that establishing a functional polytechnic could provide essential education opportunities for the youth and stimulate economic development in the area. Now, we had a report put together during the week. Austin Azu, who's been following this, put this together. Let's take a look.
This is the entrance gate into the proposed Sapele Polytechnic here at Iriabome and Degele in Sapele local government area of Delta State. This project started in 2012 and was abandoned in 2016. What are the people saying about this project?
So the project is abandoned in 2016 during Governor Okowa. So we wrote a lot of letter to the government house that the project they should come and continue with the project, because we have a lot of the project is a big project, and we feel that the project will also bring development to our community.
Some of our people, we graduated from the school, we're supposed to work here, they didn't have somewhere to work.
The Sapele Polytechnic, now abandoned, was among the 4 polytechnics established in 2010 under former Governor Emmanuel Odwaga's administration. The project work started in 2012 at the permanent site of this communal farm in Degele Iriabome communities. The abandonment of the project is not an isolated incident, as several other projects initiated by Odwaga in the state were stopped as former Governor Ifeanyi Okowa took over power in 2015. In 2021, Okowa upgraded 3 tertiary institutions in the state to universities. The host communities appealed to Governor Sheriff Oborewori to consider visiting the institution for on-the-spot assessment of the massive projects on site.
So, Excellency, I'm here, I'm begging, as one of your aid, you come and assist us, because the women, the men, as you can see, I'm with the committee, some of the leaders. Look at the whole place now, look at the environment. This land is a place where we farm, we have a lot of farm here, but we donated it to the government so that our children, the communities, we can go to school. And with school, development will come.
We are appealing to the Delta State Governor, Chief Honorable Sheriff Oborewori, to come and assist us to open the school.
The Delta State Commissioner for Higher Education, who spoke through the phone, said the Polytechnic was not part of the handover documents given to him when he assumed office, but the State Commissioner for Works, Rural Roads and Public Information shed more light.
We are the only state in the entire country that has 4 universities owned by the state, 2 colleges of education owned by the state, 2 polytechnics owned by the state, not to talk of other health sciences.
The people of Delta State, particularly those in Sapele, are eagerly awaiting updates on the Polytechnic status and hoping for its revival. In Sapele for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Many thanks to Austin Azu there for that report. And he joins us now live as he has been following this situation closely. Also joining us is the Commissioner for Works and Public Information, Delta State, Mr. Charles Aniagu. Mr. Charles, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, Austin, many thanks for following this report and bringing us this update. I'm going to start with you, Austin. Just can you provide more details on the initial vision and objectives behind establishing the Sapele Polytechnic all the way from 2007?
Yes, actually, the project was conceived in 2010 at one of the ESCO's meetings, precisely in April. And in 2012, they commenced work at the Polytechnic. And as at then, the work was growing. But it got to a point in 2014. Of course, it was during the electionary period, so it was stalled. And however, they were still working gradually. But in 2016, they done to finally, the contractors, from what we gather from the locals, the contractors said they could no longer continue the project simply because there was no funding. However, the community leaders claimed that they have written several letters to the past administration to consider revisiting the school so that the school will be completed. Knowing fully well, like what some of them said, the school is situated on a very vast land, and that particular land happens to be a communal farm, which they said they donated to the state government some years ago. And when the government muted the idea of establishing a polytechnic across the states, one of them was the Sapele Polytechnic, another one was at Abiborodo in Warri North, then the last one was at Abo in Undokwa East local government area of the state. But after 2016, according to the locals, that the project was stopped because of lack of funds, and the contractors decided not to return back to site. Since then, the locals have been trying their best to ensure they are able to reach out to the government of the day. But the past administration seems not to have considered most of their requests. However, with the new government on board, they have taken advantage of the one they call their own, to express what they want and how they believe that will be able to open up those rural areas. And of course, that particular community happens to be, according to them, say is a very a good location. Now, another concern is raised by the locals again, that they have been clearing that particular area, ensuring that they are able to clear that place open so that woodlands and wild animals will no longer be staying there. And not only that they want to ensure that bad elements in society don't take advantage of those lowly areas and begin to use it as heinous crimes, like taking their victims to them in terms of kidnapping and other insecurity. So they have taken it upon themselves to be ensuring that they're able to clear that place periodically to enable people to discourage miscreants for going into that area. But by and large, their concerns remains the fact that the government should hear their appeal and try as much as possible to visit the school so that the school will be reactivated to enhance economic activities. And of course, most of their children who wants to go to higher institutions will be able to go to higher institutions. Those of them who cannot afford to travel far places, or probably because of the harsh economy. Of course, you know quite well now that most of the houses in those across Nigeria precisely are quite expensive. So they believe that if their children could be living there for school, that will help them a lot. In terms of employment, in the same way, they are still saying that most of their children and their wards have graduated from higher institutions. Those who are looking for jobs, of course, if that polytechnic is being reactivated, of course, they are sure that less than 30% of them will be absorbed into the working class, and most of them will be able to have something meaningful to do instead of their youths loitering about looking for what to do or the other. So basically, these were what forms the reports that we just brought out.
Okay. Oh, many thanks, Austin. We appreciate you for that. And I have to ask at this point, and let me come to you, sir. This work was halted. Is there a specific reason why it was halted to you, Mr. Aniago?
Thank you very much, Judith and Mazino. We appreciate the fact that you are taking interest in the developments in Delta. And then I want to also say a very good morning to Nigerians and then your viewers across the globe. Now, let's look at issues the way they are. And in the course of this interaction, I'll be able to also take you through the number of higher institutions we have in Delta. Today, we have the highest number of higher institutions owned by the state in the entire federation. We will come to that in the course of this interaction. Now to the issues you raised. When we came in 2015, so at early 2016, sometime in January, we had an education summit. That summit was for the purpose of taking a look at our educational system and how to ensure that schools in Delta children love education, the people of Delta, and how we can ensure that our schools function maximally, and that we are running schools that at the end of the day will not begin to go on strike every now and then because of our inability to cater to the needs of those schools. That was one of the issues we were examining in the course of that education summit. Another issue that was also examined in the course of that education summit is the issue of the funding pattern. And then we arrive at the conclusion that for you to be able to determine the issue of how to run the schools, there are three things are important. There are three questions must be answered. One is who owns the child? And then which society the child, and we came up with the answer that the three persons owns the child. The parents of the child, in this case, father and mother, the society where the child will operate, And of course, the government and other institutions that will also take advantage of the existence of that child. In which case, these three different institutions must play a role in the upbringing of the child and the educational development of the child. Now, that was one. The second one was, how do we now look at what form of education are our people embracing? And when we looked at it, we saw that the number of polytechnics we had as at that time, we had 3 functional polytechnics, one in Ogwashuku, another one in Otefe, that is in Otefe, and then of course another one in Ozoro. And we also had 3 colleges of education. So all these ones I'm mentioning are owned by the state government, 3 colleges of education. Then of course, as at that time, 1 university with 3 different campuses. When we examined it, we saw that many persons want to navigate towards the university education. And that because of that, the university we had did not have enough carrying capacity. And that we needed to be able to have more universities because many people want to be in the universities. That we are not saying we are going to close down any of these, we are going to stop the establishment of these polytechnics, but let us do what works for us first. And it was the outcome of that that led to the establishment of 3 additional universities, making it 4 in Delta. The Okowa-led administration established 3. But to be able to establish that 3 because of the cost implication, we needed to convert one of the polytechnics, which is the Ozoro Polytechnic, into a university, since we had 2 other ones that could cater to polytechnic education. We converted one college of education, which was the one in Abo, because we examined where we have enough infrastructure that could support the university education system. And then there was another one, which was a campus of the University of Delta State University of Abraka, a campus of that university in Asaba, which was to cater to the agricultural studies of that particular institution. And that we needed to also upgrade it and make it a university. We approached the Nigerian University Commission and then gave them our template. They saw that it's something that is doable, and that was why we came about establishing 3 additional universities, because we saw that the needs were navigating towards that direction. Now, if you establish a school because the people need it, just like people continue to advocate for creation of more states, you also make sure that your children, that school will indeed cater to all their needs. If you establish it because individuals want to make the place open in terms of not being a forest, and at the end of the day you have needs in other areas, it may become a challenge. And so if you look at it today, in Delta, like I said earlier, no state has the number of higher institutions that we have. It is to the extent that out of our 10 federal constituencies, 9 of them have tertiary institutions. And I mentioned 2 polytechnics owned by the state, 2 colleges of education owned by the state, 4 universities owned by the states. I'm not talking about other health institutions. I'm not talking about the number of other schools that are owned by either private individuals or the federal government. But at the level of government, we have more number of higher institutions to cater to the needs of our people. Now, before you come in with your next question, let me also go to the second leg of the issues I raised earlier that came out of that particular education summit, which is the issue of how do we ensure that our schools are not embarking on the incessant strikes that you see across the length and breadth of the Federation. It might interest you, Judith and Mazino, that in the last 9.5 years, no higher institution in Delta, you can fact check me anywhere, have embarked on any strike. All the strike you have seen across the Federation, our schools don't join. They are not joining not because they don't like to make demands. They are not joining because we try to meet up with those demands before even they are made. Today, as I speak, a number of those things that you see other ASU chapters agitating for, we try as much as possible to first of all meet up with them, which is why our own funding pattern is such that we have subvention that caters to the needs of these higher institutions, so that our children, beyond having to be exposed to quality education, our lecturers are also being able to see that we are taking care of them much more than others in other institutions. So those are the issues. So it's not just for us to just, okay, go and put a polytechnic here, go and put another one here, without having that feasibility study. It was a result of feasibility study that revealed that university education has become much more attractive to a number of our children. And that was why we went that way. Perhaps in the course of time, we will still, as a government, re-examine the issues because it's an ongoing concern and possibly see the need to immediately reactivate action in those institutions. It's not as if we have jettisoned the idea of having more higher institutions, but we needed to move steadily and smoothly so that we do not bite more than we can chew.
So is there any plan then to reactivate it?
The plan will follow another examination of the issues, just like we did in 2016, and then we looked at what we have. Even beyond 2016, under the Oborowori administration, we have also seen the need to expand the Southern Delta University and then open up another campus, which is in the federal constituency where the one in Sapele you are talking about is. Because we saw that ASIS needed to be able to also have another university closer to the people. And we looked at the infrastructure. There was a technical school that we were already establishing in a place called Orurukpe. And the school had far more buildings, more infrastructure. And since we needed those infrastructure to be able to have a proper campus of the university, automatically both the central location of Orurukpe as well as the fact that we have gotten a whole lot of infrastructure in that proposed technical school that was under construction, started by the last administration. Today, if you go to that campus in that federal constituency, that is Sapele and Okpe in one federal constituency, of course, they are governed also traditionally by one traditional ruler, the Oroji of Okpe, who is the king of both Sapele and the Orurukpe I'm telling you about, the entire Okpe kingdom. And so they have a higher institution that is catering to the tertiary education needs of our brothers and sisters in that environment at the moment. But as we progress, of course, change is one thing they say is constant. As we make progress, we will be able to examine whether indeed we should leave it as a polytechnic or there is a need for us to activate some of those structures that you saw there for the purpose of having quality and effective education, not just to be political. Our administration don't want to be political because it will be wrong for you to be political with your establishment of educational institutions, like it's done in many places where individuals can just say, okay, I have not given your brother, I give to my sister. Our people, even when we had one university, please,
Commissioner, my apologies, sir. I'll have to cut you there because we also have been joined by another guest of whom we would like to get his opinion on the matter here, and we're being joined by Valentine Onojego. He is the APC Public Secretary, Delta State. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry about the hiccup I encountered in trying to join the discussion.
That's fine, sir. Now, sir, if you were listening, you'd realize that the Commissioner Charles Anyago, has actually just told about the fact, mentioned something about transition and these different governments that have been involved or perhaps maybe not involved. So I'm going to reel out the governors that perhaps have been in office since the conception in 2007, the starting construction in 2010, and then everything just going awry in 2015. Now, these governors started with Emmanuel Uduaghan, and then it was Ifeanyi Okowa, and then finally now it's Sheriff Oborowori as governor of Delta State. Now, I'm going to ask you a direct question. Which of these governors do you think has dropped the ball on this project for the Polytechnic? Noting that, well, let me just ask that question first. Which of these governors do you think has dropped the ball?
Well, thank you. You see, I think all of them, so far from Uduaghan to Okowa and now to Sheriff, they've not been faithful to their oath of office in providing sound education for debtors. Now, this Polytechnic, in fact, there were four, I think, Uduaghan established. The one in Sapele, there was one in Abo, in Delta North, Ndukwa East or so. There is one in his home community in Warri North, Adigborudo, and there is one in Bomadi, in Delta South again, and of course this Sapele local government one in which we are focusing on right now. Now, when Uduaghan started the project, he left and Okowa came in as governor. Throughout his 8 years of administration, not one single block was laid upon what Uduaghan did and left. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go on, sir.
Okay. So throughout that Okowa's tenure, nothing was done. where Uduaga stopped is where Okowa didn't even bother to look at it to know if the government is to continue with it. Government is continuing. One government handovers to the other, and it continues from there. These are projects which are meant to provide education for the teeming population of Delta State. So I've heard the commissioner saying that we have 4 universities, we have 2 polytechnics, and as if that is not enough. Delta State, in Delta State, we value education, we place a premium on education. And it is sad that the commissioner is saying because we have those higher institutions, that is enough to cater for the desires of Delta, and so are seeking to acquire one higher education or the other. Now, let me tell you something. Before Okowa converted the Uzoro Polytechnic into a full-fledged university, the admission rate exceeded what the Polytechnic was able to take. It was enough fact. The Polytechnic done at Uzoro admitted so much students far above its capacity. So this tells you that Deltas are looking for every opportunity to get one form of higher education than another. So the commissioner cannot use that as an excuse to say, oh, we have 4 universities, we have 2 polytechnics, and so on and so forth. States like Bayelsa, they have 3 state universities. Kogi State that don't have the kind of resources we have, they have also 3 universities. With the little they have, they are running 3 universities. So that is not an excuse. With due respect to him, the person, the Okowa, failed to do anything about that polytechnic. Even the other 3 did not even see the light of the day. As we speak, nothing to show that this polytechnic were established by the Uduaga administration. Nothing.
All right, Mr.
So what is he talking about?
All right, Mr. Onojego, thank you very much. Commissioner, I'm wondering if you'd like to respond to that.
Hey, brother, I don't have any challenge with the issues he has raised. Of course, as the publicity secretary of the APC in Delta, you believe that they should turn everything to politics. We are talking governance. Ask him what was the politics in Utefe. We looked at the entry because most of the persons in that ASIS were struggling to go into the Delta State University. As at that time, the university does not have the power to admit, as the current capacity per session was not more than 4,200 out of over 20-something thousand that we want to go into the university at the same time. At the time, our colleges of education were very busy running remedial courses for other universities in other states because not many persons want to go into those colleges of education anymore. You go into a whole college of education with a lot of classes. In the case of Abo at the time, the lecturers were even almost becoming more in number. The workforce was more in number than the students. Where you have over 1,200 workforce and you're having about 1,000 students, the money we were using to take care of those schools were far more than the whatever that was coming in. And we looked at the need, what we serve our people, not to play politics. When he said that when you talk about dropping the ball, I mentioned one thing. Mm-hmm. There is no state in this federation where their lecturers don't go on strike. Mm-hmm. How come in Delta they don't go on strike? He didn't look at what the last administration did and what Borowori is also doing. Okay, so Commissioner,
based on that now, let me come to you based on that, now that you've brought in the current governor, Borowori, regarding and you're the Commissioner of Works, so you know how much exactly might have gone or might have been sunk into this university and the construction from before, and how that might have tripled, maybe even multiplied times 10 currently now. What is the current governor's intention regarding this polytechnic in the state it is, and what vision does he have for it?
I have told you what we are doing. I have mentioned and I have been very, very clear on that. That first of all, you need to look at the issue of functionality. I don't know if you can hear me because yes, I'm having a challenge with my. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Loud and clear.
Now, you must first of all be able to come to understand the issues that are at stake here. Education is not like open up a biscuit shop where anybody can come and buy biscuit. There is a reason for establishing institutions. And I told you that we had the education summit. We brought in professionals, professors, doctors from across Nigeria, not only from Delta, to help us, to assist us in taking a look at what we call needs assessment. We carried out a needs assessment as to what can we do to make sure that when our children go into higher institution, that if it's 4 years, they will be there for 4 years and not 10 years. And that at the end of the day, the quality of education is such that they can compete globally. Not just for anybody to be political and just say, go and set up 3 million universities. Now, as at the time, he was talking about 4 polytechnics being established. We had 3 very functional polytechnics. One in Ogwashuku, one in Ozoro, and of course, another one in Otefe. All these polytechnics were established in the 3 senatorial districts, in addition to College of Education and also the 3 senatorial districts. I'm talking about state-owned. And then the university was also split. The one university as at that time was split into 3, having campuses in the south and another campus, of course, in the north. The one in the north was converted because the one in the south is actually taking care of the legal needs, training our lawyers, and then, of course, our engineers in Ole. So what we did and what we are doing as a government is continuous assessment of what we need, not to play politics. If you go ahead and establish 7 polytechnics, as he's saying, and you are going to have 300 students in one, and possibly 500 teachers, and at the end of the day, they become mushroom, how have you helped the state with that? I have not mentioned even the federal institution that we still have in Delta, federal universities that we have in Delta. Another polytechnic, he talked about, we have also another polytechnic that is a maritime polytechnic.
Okay.
Now,
so we must be able to look at the issue of functionality. That was what we look at. We're not playing politics. Now,
Right,
if we establish 3 universities at once, no state in this federation has ever done at once.
At this point, I have to ask you about...
Let me just make this comment before you... Yes.
Go ahead.
You see, he was talking about Totefe and Ogwashuku and functionality and how effective the government can manage these universities. I can confidently tell you that both in Otefe and Ogwashuku, the Okowa administration did not do anything. No infrastructure was built throughout his 8-year tenure. He didn't do anything. If you go to Otefe, the structures that are still there were the ones that were put in place by, I think, Ibori, when the Polytechnic was established. Then, of course, you have NDDC and TEDFON built some structure. Okowa didn't do anything. So if you are talking of replacing these facilities and to get optimal result, then you are not even investing in the structures in this facility. In Ogwashuku, the same thing. You can send your people there to verify what I'm telling you. So it's not fair, when they say when the opposition speaks, they say you are playing politics. No, this is the truth of the matter. The negligence of this higher institution are so terrible. He's talking about these universities that have been polytechnics that were converted into universities and campuses. These Delta State universities, so far, they are not among the top 100 universities rated in the country, due to the absence of these basic infrastructures for research and so many other things.
All right.
What is he talking about?
I mean, if we're going to widen this scope in terms of our educational sector at large, federal, state. No, hang on a second. If we're going to widen this scope, there's a lot that needs to be done with our educational sector. But I'm going to give you a right of reply, sir, Mr. Aniago, because he's made cases with Okowa's administration when it comes to certain local governments that you've mentioned, and saying that he has done nothing in those local governments if we're talking about governance. But still on education, if you are saying that there's a lot of process and there's universities, because I'm looking at the stat here, 33 when it comes to number of tertiary institutions there, and the dropout level for upper secondary is at 26%. This is as of 2024, August of 2024. I'm looking at the stat. Then what happens to inclusivity? What about the handicapped? What about those who are blind, who need special education? Can this not be converted for special education for those who need to be included? Can it not happen then? Your take.
Now, when I tell you that my brother is playing politics, you can see what he's trying to do to even demarket our schools that are very highly rated, all just because he wants to play politics. Now, he talked about Ogwashiku Poly. He's not telling the truth. Even in 2019, Okowa, even beyond the issue of infrastructure, the administration made 50 million naira available for entrepreneurship scheme alone to be able to enhance the human capital. As at October 2019, you can fact check me on that. So when he says these two schools were abandoned, I have said one thing that you need to ask. How come the schools in Delta don't go on strike? Is that not important to you? If our leaders, Okowa and of course Oborowori today, are not taking steps, how come whenever there is a threat of strike, our schools are standing strong? Our students, do you know that even when many persons were out of the classroom for almost 5 months, as about during the Buhari administration, the schools in Delta were very busy graduating their students.
Mr. Nyago,
so now, if you talk about confusion,
just a second, sir.
The schools in Delta are not the only ones that don't go on strike.
Just a second, sir. Just a second,
mention
sir.
any other state. Mention any other state where they did not go on strike. Mention
Just
one
a second,
other state.
sir. Now, I would like to say that I kind of understand what he's trying to tell about the infrastructure and maintenance of these institutions. Now, there's one thing for the institutions to function and not have any breaks, which we commend the Delta State institutions for. I'm from Delta State, and I know this. But I've also been to Ogwatri. I've seen the Polytechnic there in Ogwatri, and I know the state it was in 10 years ago when I visited, before I visited again last month. And it's in the same condition. So the question is whether there is consideration being given to these institutions for maintenance or development. Well, is it allocated in the budget for one thing? Mr. Anyago. I'm hoping the commissioner can hear us.
Yes, I can hear you very well now.
Yes. So regarding provision made in the budget for these institutions, the maintenance and development, how much of that consideration is being made by the governors, whether it was Okowa or whether it's Sheriff Oborowori currently?
If you take a look at the institutions that we have, don't forget, when ASU makes demand a number of times, what are they demanding? It's not only enhancement of salary of the lecturers. Instead of ASU and then ASU, that is those who are responsible for academic activities in the polytechnics and of course the universities, have been very selfless in making demand for improved learning condition. It's a major plank of usually their protest. It has never been all about whether you increase their salary. So if us are not embarking on strike, you think they too don't like good infrastructure in the institutions? We have gone to the extent of even having to tar roads within these schools. We have been able to, that we don't every day go in the model we're operating is a model that also encourages the institutions to be able to take advantage of the subvention that the government is providing for them to begin to build. The system we adopted in Delta is such that we have what we call a monthly subvention that we give to these universities and the polytechnics so that they're able to cater to the needs of these institutions, that they have remained stable and they are having more courses accredited. It's not because they have a lot of friends in NUC. It is because we are providing those things that will make those schools to continue to run. I am happy you are from Delta, my brother, Mazino. When you come in and you see, for instance, like the new campus West we just Borowori just established in Ororope, go there and see the amount of infrastructure that we are building. And so when I said that my brother is talking politics, he asked me that is it only Delta they did not go on strike? Let him mention one other state, only one, I didn't say two, where the lecturers and the state universities did not embark on strike.
We're out of time.
For him, that doesn't mean anything to him because he wants to play politics. We don't play politics, we are doing governance.
Gentlemen,
the commissioner did not give any figure to the question my brother asked as to what is being budgeted for these schools for maintenance, for improvement on infrastructure. He couldn't even say it. So that's why I say when we raise these issues, they say
apart from works which deals with infrastructure, education is usually the second in our budget, in our yearly budget.
He is saying that there are states like this, and they don't go on strike. There are a lot of states. So
mention one state. Mention one out of the other 35.
And the amount of money that is coming into the state.
Gentlemen.
My brother, you are giving the issue. Mention one other state. Can you mention one other state if you are not playing politics?
Gentlemen, please, we're pretty much out of time. I wish we could extend this conversation to talk more about this, but we're out of time. Now, I must make a plea here, to always put governance at the center. But most importantly, let's not forget that our governance also has to do with inclusivity, and those are the people that are living with disability. If this Polytechnic were to come back to the fore in terms of restructuring and then reactivating this project, can it be switched to special education? Just the Polytechnic dedicated to special education for people living with disability. That's for the floor for you to decide. Commissioner, many thanks for doing this with us. And also, sir, to you, Mr. Valentine, who is the APC. Thank you so much. And also to Austin Azu, thank you for bringing this conversation here.
Apologies.
Thank you for bringing the report. Thank you for going out to the people and just hearing their side. This is where we draw the curtains. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll take a short break. When we come back on the other side, it's going to be time for sports. Stay here. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. You're still watching Breakfast Extra. Now going to the world of sport. The 6th championship will begin this weekend with zonal elimination set to identify next generation of talent for cricket. The tournament featuring under 17 boys and girls will be played across 6 zones. In the South-South, teams will compete in Asaba from February 6 to 10, 2025, while in the South-East, of course, in Ebonyi State, in Afikpo, we've got February 7 to 2025. In Abuja, from February 8 to 12, 2025. The Northwest Games, all running from February 8 to 12. Notable past players and also Prosper Useni, winners from each zone, will face off in the national finals, as approved by the Nigerian Cricket Federation. When we come back, we'll talk more in the world of sport. Welcome back. We do apologize for that audio glitch. Now, wrapping up sports update, Nigeria's under-17 girls Flamingos will, on Sunday, they'll be at Remo Stars Sport Institute in Ikenne to kickstart their preparations for their 2-leg FIFA under-17 Women's World Cup, the qualifying clash with under-17 girls from South Africa. The 2022 World Cup bronze medalists were drawn to the second round of the African qualifiers, while South Africa fired from all cylinders to steamroll their counterparts from Gambia 21-2 on aggregate, winning 12-1 in Gabon and 9-1 in South Africa. Coach Bankole Olowokere will lead the team to the 3rd place finish in India in 2022 and to the quarterfinals last year, has called up a total of 30 players to begin the campaign on Sunday. The list includes goalkeeper Christiana Uzonna, defenders Hannah Ibrahim and Jumai Adebayo, not forgetting midfielders Sikuratu Moshood and Munat Rotimi, not forget also the forwards Harmony Chidi, Peace F. Young, all in the list. This year's FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup will be hosted by Morocco on 17 October to 8 November, with Africa being represented by 5 teams in the final, which has also been expanded to a 24-nation championship. Time that our friend, this is where we have to call it a wrap in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. Back to you, Magzino, for the rest of the Breakfast Extra.
Well, thank you very much, Onyinyechi. I must confess, however, I wasn't listening. I was distracted by your beauty.
Don't be.
Thank you very much for good sports.
You're welcome.
And now let's do the news. Of course, you know my name is Mazino Appeal. So we begin with security matters, where Anambra State Police Command has arrested 9 suspects allegedly involved in the killing of Justice Azuka, the member representing Onitsha North 1 constituency in the State House of Assembly. Now, the Commissioner of Police in Anambra, Nage Tam, announced the arrest in a press statement, saying a joint security team on a mission to rescue the abducted lawmaker discovered his lifeless body Itam added that on the same day Azuka's body was found, security operatives in collaboration with Anambra State vigilante operatives acting on intelligence-led operations apprehended 9 suspects believed to have played an active role in the killing. According to Itam, 2 pump-action guns were recovered from the suspects. He added that one of them sustained a gunshot wound to the leg during an exchange of fire with the police. Suspected pirates have hijacked a passenger boat carrying 20 travelers along the Bonny Okrika waterways in Rivers State. This came as the Bonny Local Government Council said it had rescued 9 of the passengers, while a frantic search is on to rescue the others. Chairman of the council, Anengi Claude Wilcox, said the rescue was in collaboration with security agencies. Claude Wilcox said on Friday that the driver of the passenger boat went contrary to the rules to pass through kilometer 10, which is a prohibited channel for commercial boat drivers. Elsewhere, gunmen suspected to be bandits have attacked a mosque in Bushe community, Sabong Bernin in Sokoto State. They are believed to have kidnapped no fewer than 10 worshippers, including the imam. Eyewitnesses revealed that the gunmen invaded the mosque on Thursday while worshippers were performing their early morning Shabir prayer. Residents said the gunmen had been molesting people of the community for some time now, even with the presence of security agents. They noted that the timely intervention of the security agents led by the troops of Nigerian Army was able to curtail the activities of the gunmen. The Sokoto State Police Command has also confirmed the attack. And away from security matters now, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has dismissed reports of an explosion at the Warri refinery. The company stated that operations at the refinery remain intact, with 8 trucks of diesel and kerosene being loaded daily. According to a statement issued on Friday by NNPCL's Chief Corporate Communications Officer, Olufemi Shonoye, the controlled adjustment of operations on 25 January was deliberate. Shonoye emphasized that claims of an explosion at the refinery complex were entirely false. And now to election matters. Nigeria's Independent National Electoral Commission has assured citizens of its commitment to prosecute election offenders. This comes after the anti-graft agency revealed that 774 cases are ongoing in court. The chairman of the commission, during an interactive session with the media in Abuja as part of its first quarter consultative meeting, says this has been made possible through a collaboration with the Nigerian Bar Association and has recorded successes in several cases. He, however, expressed concern, saying many cases are still pending.
Through our collaboration with the Nigerian Bar Association, cases involving 774 alleged offenders from the 2023 general election are being prosecuted. So far, successful prosecutions have been recorded in Kebbi and Kogi states, while our collaboration with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the EFCC, on vote buying has yielded similar results in Lagos, Kwara, and Gombe states. Yet, many cases are still pending.
And you're welcome back. It's been 2 hours and now we're in the final hour so that we can get started. For our final hour, we're going to get started with of course, the front pages of Saturday dailies across Nigeria and most likely outside of Nigeria. So if you will, join us. Let's get started with the Saturday Independent. So that's a Daily Independent, I beg your pardon. There we go, the Saturday Independent, Daily Independent. The very first one that comes at you there. Why suspected herdsmen launched fresh attacks on Ebonyi community. My 75-year-old father, a retired police inspector, murdered. That's from a resident there. I lost everything, including my husband, another resident. Lord's chosen pastor slaughtered on the altar, a witness says. And incident highlights need for proactive security agencies. And that's from lawmakers there. You can find these and more on page 4 of the Saturday Independent. At the very top there, Interior Minister Tunji Ojo allegedly orders detention of APC chieftain Gani Mohammed over Facebook message, FB message. I'm thinking this is Facebook message. You can find that story on the Saturday. That's the Daily Independent for Saturday. Also, how unruly commercial drivers, law enforcement officers cause tragic accidents. That story is on 23. About time they're being called out. At the bottom there, after 32 years, NPA reviews tariffs, sensitizes stakeholders. You can find that story there and more. I'm guessing this is the National Pensions Authority or National...
NPA, National Ports Authority.
National Ports Authority. I was thinking it was pensions because I was about to call some certain people. Moving on.
Judith, no, don't do that.
Goasa Dictionary Gamble. A professor's 30-year struggle for national unity hits dead end. That story there, I think, is on page 13. Nasir El-Rufai unfit to intervene in Rubadu Mohammed dispute. That's from JAMN. That story there is on 7 there. That's from the association there. Nasir El-Rufai seems to be in one thing or the other this past few weeks.
He does not want to go out of circulation, this man. He's just always there for one topic or the other.
Moving on. We haven't scrapped a GSS SSS system. The federal government denies reports. That story is on page 3 there. And despite exit from ECOWAS, Nigerians seek medical attention in Katsina. That story is on page 4. And lastly, 2025 Grammys, a rise and rise of global star Thames, my girl. Congratulations, superstar. I always knew you were a star since 2018 when I heard Rebel. Congratulations to you, darling.
Okay, interesting.
Let me give you a story. So I remember I followed my you know, when your older parent decide they want to have children in old age, and now you're stuck with a Gen Zer who has refused to cut his hair properly. And so they'll go to the salon to get their hair cut. And somehow it's just a cleanup. It's like, what did you do? Let's go to the salon together. So that they go to the house, pick him up, and we went to the salon. And then I'm sitting at the back, and then, you know, the music videos are playing on the television, and he's very begrudgingly getting his hair cut, you know, because it's like, I'm the cool kid. How come my older sister is sitting down at the back with her magazine? I'm like pressing my phone on my book, just waiting for him to get his hair cut. And they were playing music videos, and finally, Love Me JJ comes on. I'm like, oh, okay.
The old one.
You know, the new one. The one with tapes. I'm like, oh, Love Me JJ, oh, nice. And then I see Shay Shodin. I'm like, oh my God, oh, that's Shay.
I'm sure he doesn't understand why the excitement.
Listen, my brother's like, he wants to dissolve on the chair. He was so embarrassed. I'm like, do you know who that guy is?
Have you met him
like
before?
all the younger men,
Have you met him? Good.
And all the younger guys who are next to me are looking at me like,
why is this anti-shouting?
and they just didn't understand like what the cultural cross. Oh my God! I was over there just embarrassing my younger brother. Daniel, I'm sorry, forgive me, but I couldn't help
not
it.
then. We've got more papers we must take now. We move on to the Nation newspaper. Let's see what's on the front pages there. Front and center, big one here for a Saturday. State creation hurdles agitators must scale by Deputy Speaker. Says they have till March 5th to fill application gaps. Now, there's 31 propositions, or 31 proposals for states in Nigeria. And like I said during the monologue, exactly where? Exactly. After 36, you want what? I don't know. Well, obviously, not all of them will get approval, but I can't imagine any more states in Nigeria with all the wahala that we have in each state. If it's not minerals that's causing unrest, then it's governors who have godfathers they're fighting against, or, you know, successive administrations that have peeves or disagreements with the previous ones, like Edo and Delta State. Still for the Nation, PDP crisis, fury over BOT's backing of Ude Okoye. This was all over the place, all over the week. Southeast Legal Advisor slams resolution on authentic national secretary. And to the side there on page 6, you'll find our contractual relationship with FBM by General Hydrocarbons. Describes deal as project finance relationship. And at the bottom there, how kidnappers killed lawmaker after collecting 100 million naira from his accounts. A very sad situation, this. 9 arrested, 2 pump-action guns recovered from them. We talked about this inside of the news and the fact that these guys have been arrested and are being linked to the murder. It was the condition in which his body was found that really makes the situation appalling.
So appalling.
It's very sad, this. Still more here for the Nation. ICPC arrests former Naval Chief NSCDC Commandant over alleged 3 billion naira fraud. There is money in Nigeria and it's not reaching me. Ex-Minister Turaki arraigned for adultery and others. This is strange. All right, at the very bottom for the Nation, there's this. Benefit of contracts Contractless passport application by minister. I'd like to see that. You might want to check it out as well. And that you can find on page 7. And that's all for the nation.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And that's pretty much all of the newspapers we can take at this hour. 2 of the major newspapers so far, pretty much all the headlines are pretty much the same.
I'm sure you find reiterations in other papers. Basically, those are the ones for this morning.
In the meantime, we switch gears because Mazzino is on standby. I mean by standby is going to the other side to bring you strips.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Exciting times. Get ready.
So once again, welcome. It's exciting times when it's time to do the strips. Everybody knows I love the strips. And of course, Judith will be joining me to talk about some of these. And we'll be putting some of them up and we'll talk about these true-to-life type instances that have been made into digest form for us to consume without crying. Because Nigeria will make you cry, whether you like it or not. Judith, you agree, don't you? Nigeria
I do now, of course.
will always Nigeria. So let's get started, shall we, Judith?
Sure.
Our very first strip for today, let me guess, let me see, which one would it be? Booyah, very interesting, I like this one. Let me step back for a minute now. See, EFFECT members approve 4.8 billion for HIV treatment. Oh, now they're approving. Oh, why, I wonder. However, there's something that catches the eye here, Judith. If you look at the representations of all the members here who are ready to launch this 4.8 billion naira for HIV treatment, what can you see, Judith? Anything specifically you want to...
No.
You want to see...
Oh, no.
Can you see it? What can you tell?
Do you want me to do this on national television?
Hey, who's best to get into trouble?
Do you want me to do this on national television?
You have a nose for trouble, don't you? Go on.
Yeah, well, I have a penchant for it. They have the rubber masks on. Yeah.
So that indicates a lot of thievery.
I know be thief. You be rubber. I know be rubber. You be yam rubber. I know be yam rubber. Sorry.
We didn't know you could do Afrobeat, but welcome development here. Yes, an indication of what the Nigerian instance is. This is not saying this is what's going to happen. This is just somebody telling that this might be a situation everybody's waiting for. Once you launch this, we all know what's going to happen, whether it's racketeering or siphoning or this or that. Call it what you may. People always just think that the government is not pure when it comes to these kinds of initiatives. 4.8 billion naira is a lot of money to go around. See what I did there, Judith?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say, I just said it potentially go around, you know, if you have your masks available and nobody can trace it back to you.
I have one here somewhere.
Now we know where all our new central money's been going.
I know, if I look so good.
Let's move on to our next one now. But this was my cake for today, actually. I really liked it. Now, of course, the Guardian with all their bubbles. Let's read this one. Note the flag up there, but let's take this. And as if this Trump pain is not enough, another T-pain is waiting for us at home. Chai, from mass deportation to mass hardship. I don't know, are Nigerians being deported already? Judith, are they? I'm not sure, but it does look like there's going to be plenty of that coming with Trump's stance on immigration. And, you know, even... Britain's got the thing going with Badenoch saying you have to wait 15 years to be a citizen. And I asked you initially, do you have any plans to travel? Are Nigerians beginning to perhaps maybe just, you know, forget this hope of going outside the country? Do you think it's still alive, Judith?
It's still very much alive. And then it's very much alive that people want to exit the country. And there are people who, as we speak, are planning to do that illegally. Through the most torturous way ever they could do that. And even with, you know, the concerted efforts of both the private sector, NGOs, CSOs, and even the media and the public sector as well, who continually preach that do not in any way, shape, or form go through such route to get to the abroad, people are still doing it and people are still dying. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere because as much as we are enlightened and we know better, there are people out there who strongly believe that their fortunes are outside the shores of Nigeria. So.
Yeah, well, you are correct. One thing I didn't really see from before was that it's also a Trump with a T and then T-pain. Nice one there, Guardian. Thank you very much. Honor there for the art. Let's move on now and see what our next one will be. For the strips, we've got this one. Very interesting. Talk about the Trump Meister. He is here again making daily strips for us, or making it into our daily strips here in Nigeria. Of course, deporting Nigerians has become a thing that is in our consciousness. Now we're expecting plenty of our cousins and uncles, you know. Nigeria, Trump tossing us out. Next, who are you? a Nigerian perhaps. So it makes you wonder exactly what we have coming when it comes to these when it comes to these deportations. How many people will be affected? What it's going to do to our economy as well if we do not have that, you know, trans-diaspora type transactions and all of that.
Right.
It's not just the deportations. It's the effect. It's the effect on individuals, economy, standard of living, and all of that. And I had a chap here earlier during the week. He told us in specific terms what we might be looking at come the next few months with everything that's happening in the USA. We think that we are in a bubble separate from it. No. It's going to affect you and I, Judith.
Yeah,
down
absolutely.
to our very pockets.
Yeah,
our
and
very pocket. Like this.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring the money in my pocket because I don't know whether it's rumpled. It's not. It's not. It's
don't
not.
do it. Don't
I just
do it.
don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, geopolitics without, look, you know, geopolitics without a question of a doubt affects. And that's why when people say that, oh, why are you putting your mouth in America? It's not, I used to look at them like, I really don't know what you're talking about, because if there's one thing for certain, the UK, the US, and even Europe have, you know, had concerted efforts in destabilizing countries, their governments. There are classified files that have now been made public where they even have alluded to the fact that they meddled in, you know, people's governance. And geopolitics is very important because it affects your pocket, it affects the economy at large, and so it really does. But most importantly is, I'm going to talk about precedents and how this thing that he's doing would is going to have a snowball effect on the other. We're beginning to see this rhetoric as well. We're now seeing Europe, Poland, Switzerland, Sweden, and these other countries on the European fair who are now taking more stands and stringent measures against migrants. It's not just illegal migrants, but also immigrations as well. They want to steer their population back to a more homogeneous, you know, population where it's more of their people. And we're now seeing this.
You know, when you put it like that, Judith, it sounds, I'm going to say the word racist, you know.
It's
and
not
that's
racist,
the argument.
Ms. Vino, but it's not racist because why is America now meddling in the expropriation laws for South Africa? You know what I mean? It's not racist. It's just when you look at it for what it is, it's that they want to now be homogeneous. They want to have it's white supremacy. What does it mean by America first? What does it mean by going back to the good old days? The good old days is really Jim Crow era.
I can see the color of your passion there, Judith, but we've got just a few more minutes. Let's take our very last strip for today. Now, booyah, there you go. Thank you very much. He's coming from the car mat, by the way, just so you know. It's a bit shaded there, but Honorable, let the people understand that there is no money anywhere. We are all managing. Honorable is cutting away from the car mat. I don't know what accessories those are, but those look like really big SUVs that are following him. I don't know what it is with Nigerian officials and cars. Why does it seem like every single time a person is going into office, the one thing that they're looking forward to is not even the housing, it is the number of cars that they can cut away from that opportunity. I think that if we can have a policy that puts a, I don't know, cap, is a cap the word? Or regulation, thank you, regulation on, especially when it comes to these expectations by our people going into office, maybe we might tackle something that is eating away at the way we spend when it comes to governing. I don't know, what do you think, Judith?
As you know, you make a clear case, and there's nothing to add there except that I think that is a scarcity mindset, that they go in with a scarcity mindset.
Never having before and
never. Yeah, I think that they do that. So look, all of our leaders, they seem to have come from a position where they have they have power. I mean, whether it's, you know, Bola Ahmed Tinubu or Obasanjo or Goodluck Jonathan or the late Yar'Adua or Buhari. These are people who have had some level of wealth and power, but still they still go into power with a scarcity mindset, and they just amass more wealth. And I don't know, Ms. You know.
At the expense of the people.
I do not know if you know, creating laws and regulations is going to stop them, because there's one thing to create them, another is implementation. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, you said very well. You've told very well. Those are our strips for today. We've had fun telling them to you, or actually bringing them to you. We will have more for next week as we continue to collate all of them as they show up in our dailies. Maybe you might also want to tell us one or two that you think that we should feature, or what you think about them. We'll be allowing you guys to do that soon. Thank you very much for watching. Do stay tuned. We've got one more conversation coming up inside of this hour. You're going to want to hear this one.
And you're welcome to our Creative Corner for today, is where we delve into the captivating world of Nigerian sculptor Dotun Popola, renowned for his transformative approach to art, specializing in synergetic metal sculptures. Popola breathes new life into discarded materials, creating hyper-realistic monumental pieces that challenge our perceptions of waste and beauty. He was born in Lagos in 1981. Popola's artistic journey began with a national diploma in painting and general arts from Sapele Polytechnic. And today, through his art, he addresses environmental concerns by repurposing waste into intricate sculptures, embodying the themes of hope and transformation. His dedication to turning trash to treasures not only showcases his exceptional talent, but also promotes sustainability and environmental consciousness.
Oh, we had to go a long way to get this one, but let's bring it here. Let's explore the creative process and inspirations behind Dotun Popola's remarkable works here in this package.
Hi, New Central. My name is Dotun Popola. Welcome to my cave. Come on in, come on in. Well, I'll tell you that Dotun is a welder of the Federal Republic of Nigeria because I constantly call myself that name because I think I'm passionate about this country. I'm passionate about positioning Nigeria as one of the most creative countries in the world. Well, at the age of 9, my parents discovered my creative ability, with respect to art. Due to the fact that I was very destructive, somehow I would create designs on leather chairs at home. Sometimes I use a razor blade, to cut out motif on my daddy's leather chair, and that has put me into trouble several times. But because my parents were very sensitive, they took me to a roadside art shop to learn how to create art. And after that, I went to study at the Polytechnic Auchi. Then I go back to Obafemi Awolowo University, where I studied painting my master's, and I did sculpture for my first degree. So in 2014, when I finished my master's, I was more confused because my first degree was in sculpture, my master's was in painting. So for me to blend the two together becomes a big problem. So at that moment, I was really destabilized and confused. Then I went online to search for someone that can mentor me, in the areas of my passion, So I met this cowboy who actually accepted me as an apprentice. So I left Nigeria to United States, precisely 2015, and I went to learn how to weld. Upon returning back to Nigeria, then I started going to different junkyards to select different kind of scraps from different junkyard. And at that time, my dad still works as a mechanic. My dad we call him Babari Wire. And my mom sells Gary, so I always call myself Dotun Omo Babari Wire and Omo Yoni Gary, So I go to his shop to pick up scraps, and start creating sculptures from discarded material. For precisely 2018, I exhibited my first series of sculptures in Lagos around Awolowo Road, Signatures Art Gallery. Then the demand for my work moved from 0 to 200%. And at that moment, I became, my work became something that every home wanted to have. And that was the beginning of my exploration of scrap metal and, discarded materials. One of the first pieces that I did that went viral was my beautiful dog at the Legend Hotel in Lagos. I call that piece Iriola. Iriola actually changed my life, changed my story, changed everything about me. That dog, is a Boabu. It was purchased to one of the best places you'll ever see in Nigeria, And I think what is spectacular about that piece is that everything about me is inside that piece. My sweat, my tears, my problem, my joy, my sad moment, my most creative moment, my bruises, and my soul is inside that piece. I consider that work like, for instance, somebody taking your daughter for a marriage and you're like, my daughter is gone forever. She's gonna be with another man. So that piece is my brainchild. And I think I'll forever remember Iriola. My pieces are like resurrecting a dead situation and bringing life into them. I go to junkyard to pick up scraps. They are dead, they are dirty, they are stinking. I bring them to my studio, wash it, disinfect it, clean them, weld them together, paint it, and bring them to a new life. So technically, if any of them would speak, they would talk about, resurrection. And that is even my story. Well, one of the things that changed my approach to my creativity is the fact that I never knew that I could hit the limelight as at the time my work started selling. Because Nigeria is designed in such a way that you as a creative, you have to kiss some ass before you can, get to the top. But that never happened to me. I did my work, I took the risk, I exhibited my best, and I gave it, but the value I wanted people to attach to it, and they consume it like that. So that really changed a lot of things about my approach. I was just fortunate to have a mother who, as at that time, my mom was a lithographer. And for a mother that is a lithographer, she does amazing work with light and graphics. Then she probably didn't know I had that creative impetus with me, but she knew that anytime I want to create any drawing, I draw on the car in the house, I draw on the wall, draw on everything. So she started getting me sketch pads, crayons, and all sorts. From very tender age till when I was 9, that they saw that, okay, it seems this guy really wants to study art before they put me to art school, like an art shop. But they really supported me. So I have been fortunate from childhood to have supporting parents, even though they were not formally educated. When you say they didn't have the formal education, but they were sensitive enough to discover my creative talent, and they gave me all the support. Thanks to my mom and my dad. Nigerian art is beginning to take the rightful space within the global art space. And I can tell you emphatically that if you go to New York auction, if you go to any art auction anywhere in the world, you would see Nigerian art there. Go to any Art Basel, either in Miami or anywhere, go to any major art event, you would meet Nigerian art there. So Nigeria is taking the lead role when it comes to creative practice all over the world. be it singing, dancing, poetry, and everything. The same thing applies to my field of, practice. The truth of the matter is sometimes some scholars will tell you that an artist shouldn't talk about his works. You allow that to be done by art critics. Sometimes when you talk about your work, it loses it loses its worth, it loses its value. But when you give it to critics, let 5 critics talk about it, they will see it from different angles. It was a very terrible moment for me in December 24, 2014. That was a Christmas Eve. I was sitting in my room and I was thinking about my life. That was when I discovered the cowboy who I didn't know him from anywhere, and he asked me to come to the US to come and learn. Now, that experience transformed my life. You meet a stranger online, I don't know him, he's a cowboy, he lives in the middle of nowhere. Then I left Nigeria I left Nigeria in June, so I flew to New York. I couldn't afford a ticket from Nigeria to South Dakota. So I sold my car, bought a ticket that took me to New York City. So I got there the 3rd day and I saw the cowboy. He probably hasn't seen a black person in his entire life, because we're talking about South Dakota. No black person stays there, not even to talk about African. And here is a young man coming from Nigeria to South Dakota, a cowboy territory. So I got there, and this young man taught me how to weld, taught me how to shoot, taught me many things. And after that, I came back to Nigeria and I started creating piece of art from recycled materials. And from that moment, my art changed. But let me say, as an artist working with metal, one of the biggest challenges you would ever have is constant electricity. Because for me, practicing in Nigeria is a lot. I mean, you consider buying fuel every day. Sometimes I spend like $100 on fuel to run my studio. And that's a lot, So that is a huge challenge for a welder, for a sculptor. And I think that needs to be worked on, if the practice wants to continue. It's a huge challenge and it's still persisting. One of the things I make sure I do is to teach them how to think. Because, I mean, you can learn the art of welding, but when it comes to creativity, you just have to get a little bit deeper to understand. I mean, if anyone wants to, do anything like me, what is mostly different about my work is the intellectual aspect of it and the creative display. The beautiful thing about this life is to leave legacy. I mean, you can't know it all and just keep it to yourself. So I always try my best to give all my all, to any of my apprentices or, my students, so that when you see them in the public, you can say, yes, I'm proud of you. I think Gen Zs, they are going to redefine the art practice. I don't think they are really lazy. I think what interests them is not what interests us. Some people, let me add myself to them. Some of us are becoming, we are becoming relics gradually, while the Gen Zs are becoming more contemporary in their thinking, in their approach, in their style of execution. But, the society would always probably paint them lazy. Most of the creative Gen Z that I've seen, they want to do something differently. Not the way you have, not the orthodox approach that we have always done it. So I just think that we just need to
And it's time for Focus Africa. Now, in a recent development, the Nigerian community in Johannesburg have organized a town hall meeting aimed at fostering dialogue between the Nigerian residents and government officials. The event was sought to address pressing issues affecting Nigerians living in South Africa, including safety concerns, legal challenges, and avenues for cultural integration. And to that extent, we're going to have a very in-depth discussion with our guest today.
Yes, indeed. And our guest is none other than Frank Onyekwelu. He's the president of the Nigerian Citizens Association in South Africa. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for waiting for this conversation. Mr. Onyekwelu. Yes. Would like to just go straight into the question and ask if you could please elaborate on the primary goals of the recent town hall meeting in Johannesburg and how it turned out. We also heard of a few instances of squabbles or discontent. So if you could talk us through all of that, since we've run out of time. Please go ahead, sir.
Good morning to you and good words. Thank you for having me this morning. We first of all want to thank God for the success of the town hall meeting. It was a great success indeed. The town hall meeting centers on Nigerian community coming to express their concerns, their challenges, the issues that we go through day by day here in South Africa. And the honorable members of the House are privileged to hear issues and concerns ranging from the challenges in accessing and obtaining a Nigerian national passport document and the NIN acquirement here in South Africa, which has made it so difficult for some citizens to be running around the street without a valid passport, without a valid documentation. And we also raise concerns about our residence permits in South Africa, where it's challenging for some citizens to obtain these immigration documents that grants them legality to remain in the country. It was also brought to the attention of our officials the brutality and the police death that have been occurring on a very alarming speed. Even currently, as we speak, there is an incident of 2 Nigerians that were murdered in a space of 2 weeks, in 1 month, less than 1 month, in a particular province, and they died while in the custody of police authorities. Investigations are still going on. These are the concerns we brought to the attention of our officers. We also raised the issues and challenges of the economic situation in Nigeria, as we in diaspora are feeling it, hearing the cries of our brothers and sisters, our families back home, and we want to lend our voice to pray and solicit for better intervention in our governance and infrastructures. We also raise concern for the diaspora to be considered and to be granted the permission to join in voting as the next election is coming around, so that diasporas can have the opportunity to lend their voice in making decisions for better governance, for better Nigerians. These are more what we discussed in the town hall meeting, and the services we receive from our consulate offices and embassies were also brought on the table. And through it all, the House of Rep members gave us assurance, gave us hope that our concerns, our plights will be taken seriously and be brought to the federal agencies and the ministry systems that are involved, and hoping that we will get a better response, better intervention as we continue to be law-abiding here in South Africa, uphold the rule of law, and maintain the community-to-community relationship between Nigeria and South Africa. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Onyekwelu, we must say thank you so much for taking out the time to join us today. We wish that we could extend this conversation, but we will have it in our subsequent programming for sure. But once again, many thanks for joining us and just giving us a bit of insight on the town hall meeting. Mr. Francis Onyekwelu there, just giving a bit of insight on the town hall meeting held in Johannesburg with Nigerian residents that are there, as well as South Africa, and just bringing up their plights and their worry and their concerns to government officials. Pretty much how we close the curtains for today.
Yes, indeed. We'll be back again tomorrow from 8 a.m. So join us then, of course, for the full package for the weekend here on Breakfast Extra. It's Mazino Appeal and
I'm Judith at TV. I'll see you tomorrow, 8:30.
Bye, everybody.
8 o'clock. Bye for now.